made it real. And at that point, again, he was like 20-something points behind in the polls. Again, it was a slam dunk. President Bush was going to win the re-election, you know. And so he took it and he made it personal, and he made everything personal when he did that. So now how can you use this kind of information? Well, as business leaders, when you're talking to somebody and you're trying to influence them, and we're going to get to some things before we're done on ways you can influence, do you make it personal? Do you put it into their world, not just when, like the president was talking about, you know, the national debt, which will make anybody go into a deep trance. You don't have to be a hypnotist. You know, if your prime minister came out and started talking about the national debt and all this other stuff, you'd all be asleep in 20 minutes, I guarantee it. Because most of us can't track that, or little do we care. We care on one level, but how does it affect us at the emotional level? You know, our daily thing. Do you make it real? You know, and when Bill Clinton was talking, he talked about, I know people that have been laid off and things like that. You know, and I don't know if it's true or not. It may be true, it may be not, but he connected, and it was very effective. So you want to begin to use this kind of information to connect with people and make it even more powerful. We'll come back to this one, but this is another one with Obama, where, you know, he connected with people, but because of time constraints, we're going to go forward. Now, here's a guy a lot of people don't think of as a very good communicator. Correct? Right? He's an interesting guy, very well educated. I've heard him speak in person. He's a lot more articulate than you think he is, right? And so I wonder how much of his thing was pre-staged. But, you know, he was judged for what he did, not what his intentions was. And as a person that studies influence, I always think of, there was one moment in time where he gave an impassioned speech that connected with the American people. It was right after September 11th, 2001. And he gave a speech on at Ground Zero. His approval rating was 90%. There's nothing he couldn't have got the American people to do, right? And a lot of factors. America was in an emotional state, right? We'd been attacked for the first time since 1941. It had never happened to us. Most of us were walking around dumbfounded. My daughter was in the Pentagon the day it was attacked, so it affected me personally. You know, I wondered, she was in the Navy, and that's the wing of the Pentagon that got hit. You know, so it took me a day to find out, was my daughter okay? You know, and so he had a wonderful opportunity. Now, he didn't use it well, in my opinion, but that's irrelevant. You know, but he gave an impassioned speech where he connected with people, and that was one of the times where he basically connected because he talked about what everyone was feeling. You know, and again, when you go back to Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, when they're giving a talk to their audience, they connect with where they're at the time, right? And if you connect with people with where they're at, you can lead them where you want them to go. But first you have to connect where they're at, right? Not where you're at, that's irrelevant, you know? And if, again, when you looked back to the Bill Clinton, President Bush little clip we saw, he made it about that lady and people, not about him. Right? He made it personal. He connected at that emotional level. And, you know, when we saw the Reagan thing, it's where Reagan took the idea of age off the table. He was old and this and that. Now, Bill Clinton, being a serious student of communication, being a student of how to communicate, you know, and how to effectively do things. Now, in '96, when Bill Clinton was running for re-election, his opponent was Bob Dole, senator, war hero, really good guy, very popular, things like that. And Bill Clinton had his own issues. Yeah, I feel your pain. And so anyway, so there were some issues going on. And, you know, at the beginning of the election, it was it was closer than people think. And again, they asked, because Bob Dole was up there in age, but he was spinning it, and you'll see, as experience, wisdom, because with age comes wisdom, right? And things like that. So, you know, here's a question where it's the same thing. He was asked about his age. Was he too old to be president?
It's very, you know, wisdom comes from age, experience, and intelligence. And if you have some of each, and I have some age, some experience, some intelligence, that adds up to wisdom.
I can only tell you that I don't think Senator Bill is too old to be president. It's the age of his ideas that I question.
If you heard his last comment, And he what we'd call marked it with, it's the age of his ideas that I question. He put age back on the table, right? That Bob Dole was a World War II generation politician. He was thinking in the old world order. And he didn't say it that way. He did it in a much more elegant way. And it changed that debate. And again, then people started looking at it differently. Did he communicate effectively? Yes. He won in basically a landslide when the election was over. But he was prepared for it because he knew it was going to come up, and he, a la Reagan, but he reversed it. And again, good communicators, if you want to be a good communicator, you have to look at the good communicators and begin to see how are they motivating their staffs. In business, how did Jack Welch do what he did? How does Donald Trump do what he does? What are some of their thinking processes? How do they motivate people? And one of the things is, again, they look at other communicators. And again, here's a nice picture of a high communication pair. If you ever have the time, and I know everyone here is busy and you really don't, but if you wanted to YouTube Bill Clinton, 1992, when he was running for president, and here's some of the clips. And then YouTube Barack Obama, 2008, running for president. You will think Barack is Bill with a tan and more athletic, right? Because it's like, I always knew they did, and when I started really researching this, I went, wow, there was a speech where Bill Clinton was talking about, I'm your best hope for change. The current ideas don't work. The Bush-Reagan last 12 years, da-da-da-da-da. Then you fast forward to Barack Obama giving his talk, hope you can believe in. The Bush, he didn't say Reagan, but the Bush ideas don't work. It's just like transposed. Now, what did Barack do? He went back to the last president, the last Democrat to win the White House, and looked at, what did he do? Well, Bill Clinton did not talk a lot of policy and details. He connected with people on the emotional level. He got them excited. And I can remember when he was running, scandals aside, even in 92, the people that liked him were very passionate about him. Much like in 2008, oh my God, it was like a love fest with Barack Obama, but he got people to do it because he connected with them at the emotional level. And of course, the other side was like, he has no ideas, he has no experience. He played that in one speech, much like Bill Clinton, when he was asked in 92, but Mr. Clinton, you've been a governor, you've never been in the military, you've never ran a major corporation, you've never had these kind of things, can you handle it? And he went, well, if we look at what's going on now, maybe we need new ideas. Maybe we need somebody with no experience. And then fast forward 2008, Barack, you've only been a senator for 2 years. 1 year of that running for the White House. Well, yes, because we need new people. We need people not connected with Washington. It's fascinating. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, And it worked. We'll see about, we won't know in our lifetime how they judge these guys anyway. But it was, he studied someone that was good at it and did what he did. Not what the other people that didn't do well, the Al Gore and the John Kerry, when they were the Democrats running for president, they were policy guys. They talked detail. They talked all this intellectual stuff. They didn't connect at the emotional level, And all I'm saying is if you connect at the emotional level, then you can add in the intellectual stuff and get people to take action to do what you want them to do. So, really quickly, I want to go over a mind model because it's your subconscious beliefs that establish the limits of what you can achieve. It's always been said, do you believe you can do it? If you believe you can, you probably can. If you believe you can't, you can't. But it's the subconscious ideas that you're always working with. And they're deep. And basically, my mind model is this. The conscious mind is kind of like an iceberg. We only see the tip. Consciously, we only see about, some of the theory is 10%, is conscious, 90% is subconscious. So I use this as my model because most of our actions are subconscious. You do not think about most of the things you have to do in life. Because if you did, you would go insane. And you would never get anything accomplished, right? And once you learn something, it becomes a subconscious habit. And hopefully you learn good things. And you're lucky enough to get good models, so the things that you learn effectively. Driving is an example. When you were first learning how to drive, if everyone can remember when you first learned how to drive, do you remember how overwhelming it was? You know, you had to hands on the steering wheel, look at the mirror, you know, the gas pedal. If you had a stick shift, you had to shift, you had to do all this. I mean, you had to track all this information. It was terrifying, correct? And you were like, it was scary, you know, and hopefully you had someone mentored you well and let you learn how to drive well. But how long did it take? And then those of us with kids that learn how to drive, how long does it take? Do you see them? They're pulling out of the driveway, talking on the cell phone, right? You know, eating a sandwich as they're pulling out of the driveway to drive down the street. Because it's subconscious. It becomes a second nature kind of activity, like riding a bike. And so this is what we want to do, because it's your subconscious mind is where all the real power is. Because consciously, you only do a few things. It's analytical, it's rational, it's where your logic is, it's where your short-term memory is, and it's where your willpower is. And basically, when I said rational, the only thing I'll talk about is rational here in willpower. When I say rational, I do not mean human beings are rational. We are not. Human beings are the most irrational creatures on the planet, right? We're the only creatures on the planet that kill for anything other than procreation, protection, or food. All the other creatures won't do it, right? So, but we'll rationalize our behavior, right? How many of you have ever talked to an employee and you go, why did you do that? Well, I did that because everybody else did that. They rationalized it, right? You rationalize your behavior so it makes sense to you, you know? And you'll project this on other people. You try to figure out, why did they do that? You know, what was going on in there? So you rationalize, you'll put your beliefs up there like, okay, I could maybe understand why, maybe not. But I mean, you're rationalizing the behavior. So it doesn't mean people are rational. And lastly, you know, it's like your short-term memory and your willpower. Willpower really doesn't work, by the way, to make long-term change. How many people here ever tried to lose weight using willpower? Does it work? No. It works till noon on Monday. You start a diet on Monday morning, at noon you're eating a donut, right? Because it goes away, right? Because it has to do with your short-term memory. And basically your short-term memory is, you know, it's real quick. You know, it's the things you maintain. It's kind of like, have you ever gotten a phone number, right? And so you're remembering the number, you're repeating the number as you're taking out your cell phone to dial it or get to a phone, and then somebody asks you an unrelated question, so you answer the question, and then you go back to dial the phone, and you can't remember the number, right? You blame your memory. You start thinking you got Alzheimer's or something, right? And in fact, you didn't encode it, right? And digits are hard. It's also why God made Post-it notes, right? But you know, that's your short-term memory, and your willpower and your short-term memory are basically connected. That's why why you want to make changes at the subconscious level. Because at the subconscious level is where the real power is. It's your habits, your beliefs, your long-term memory, your values, and your emotions. They're always underneath the surface. And I argue you cannot control your emotions consciously. 95% of the people can, right? Anybody ever go to a movie and have an emotional response when you're watching that movie? Like you see Castaway with Tom Hanks. I mean, if anybody saw that movie and you're like, oh, you know, when the beach ball floats. Anybody have an emotional response when they saw that? Right? And intellectually, and this goes back to the emotions over the intellect, intellectually, Tom Hanks made $21 million to do that movie. He was staying in a 5-star hotel when he wasn't filming. But you connect, it made you connect. That's the emotion. It's underneath the surface, right? Anybody in the room, you know, you ever have to deal with an idiot? Right? But you have to push the emotions down because you need something from that person. Maybe they're a customer and like you can't get rid of them yet, right? You haven't grown enough to fire a customer. I think real success is when you can finally fire the customers you don't like. And I always say with my clients, I used to love to fire them. But, you know, but you suppress those emotions. But if you suppress those emotions, they pop up later. You find yourself snapping with your family or your coworkers because they're going to come out later, is all I'm saying. So, but subconscious is where the really good stuff is, right? Your habits, your emotions, and all that. Now, so basically you have your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Now what the critical factor there is your belief set. If something comes that you don't believe, you won't even let it come into your realm of you won't even consider it, right? One of the best examples of someone that won't grow is someone says, I won't even consider that idea. They won't even look at it because it goes against their belief set.